Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the channel. So my name is Victor, and I'm going to be your anchor for this training. So this is the CompTIA A Plus, which has two exams now. That is the 220-1101 and 220-1102. So if you're new to the channel, you can subscribe. You can ask your questions. Now, this is like the part 4, if I'm not mistaken. And you have the other parts on the channel. So we're going to continue this series and we'll look at module 3. But let me just do a recap of the exam objectives. This is the 220-1101 exam objective. And this is for the 1102 exam objective. Right. So the question is, what is the 001 exam trying to let us know? It's mobile devices, networking hardware, virtualization and cloud computing, hardware network troubleshooting. Then 2 is trying to help us understand operating systems, security, software troubleshooting, and of course, operational procedures. If you check questions, you're going to have more questions on hardware and network troubleshooting. You're going to have a lot of questions on hardware, what we're trying to consider now. Then you're also going to have a lot of questions on operating systems. You should know your operating systems are your fingertips. So you should be a power user if you want to pass the A+ exam. So you shouldn't be an entry-level user, or you should be a power user. So you should know your different operating systems at your fingertips. So your Mac, your Windows, your same thing for mobile, your iOS, your Android, your Java, your Symbian. You should know those generations of operating systems and what their features are like. So we're going to continue in this next session in module 3. Now, you're going to see that for the chapters are actually structured to cater for the different, the 2 exams. So it's like kind of summarized. So here we have some objectives. Cables, connectors, RAM, random access memory, storage, motherboards and CPUs and add-on card or expansion cards, then power supply, then printers, and printer consumables. So let's answer a few questions and know what to get around them, how to get around them. Then here we have cables, RAM, storage, motherboard, CPU, and add-on cards, power supply, printers, then print technologies. So let's answer some of this question. What is the most common used cable in an Ethernet network? So is it going to be STP or UTP? So the most commonly used one is UTP, unshielded twisted pair. One reason is that an unshielded twisted pair is always cheaper compared to STP, shielded twisted pair. Then coaxial will typically be used for camera. I do not know what that plenum is, right? So it might be a distraction or it can be a type of a cable. Number 2, which of these video cables uses only analog video signals to transmit data? Only analog. So you have DisplayPort, VGA, HDMI, DVI. So DVI is analog. It's a little bit older, right, compared to VGA, HDMI. I don't know what this DisplayPort, it can be a distraction. I can't tell. Let me ask ChatGPT. Of course, you're not going to have ChatGPT on exam, so it's just for learning purpose. Which of these video cables uses analog and digital signal put in a tabular format. Oh, funny enough, I didn't supply it with details. But the guy was smart enough to give me a response. So we are correct. Okay, I think we're wrong. DVI uses both analog and digital. So it's only VGA that is completely analog. Right? DVI uses analog, whereas this other one uses digital. So it's only VGA that uses only analog. Because the question is uses only analog. DVI uses analog, but VGA uses DVI uses analog, but recent DVI uses analog and what's it called? And VGA. Now, I think just a few months ago, I got a Dell what's it called again? Thin client. It's a little bit older. And this is it. So this is what, let me see if I can get a clear shot. Can you see this? This is the guy.
Yeah.
So for this thin client is just a small mini computer. I think we've looked at that in computers, parts, and the rest. So this is going to be for video. This is the display port. So this looks somehow like HDMI, but it's also for video. I think an older type of video is going to be S video, but you don't see that on systems again. So DVI is a video port. So I think what I did was, since the thin client came with DVI, I have to get an adapter that is going to convert DVI to HDMI or DVI to VGA. So DVI to HDMI adapter. So something like this, right? So you plug this on that guy, then you can use HDMI at the other end. Or it can also be HDMI, it can also be DVI to HDMI. Okay, what's the latest version for USB? I think it's generation 4. USB generation 4. See, I say you have that generation 4. So we have USB 4. If I click on this, so I have generation 4, right? So you had 1, you have 2, you had 3, you had 4, right? 4.0. So it has to do with speed. So the latest is what? 4. Which of the following is not a video cable connector? So S video it is, VGA it is, HDMI it is, RJ45 is network cable, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we've gotten some overview of what we're going to be learning. So let's move to the question, the topics proper.
I can't see the page.
Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen?
I can't see the page. The page is not on the screen.
208.
No.
Can you see the page now?
Yes.
You can see the page now.
Yes.
Can you see the page? It's covered. Can you see the page now? Two eight. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, good. So basic cable types. So we want to understand the different cables that we're going to have on our PC.
Yes, I can.
Yeah, so we have network cables. So network cables cover here are different types of cable. Ethernet is a term that is commonly used, but not often completely understood. So anytime you hear the word Ethernet, Ethernet is not internet. So Ethernet is a system of communication rules that allow computers to work together. So normally you say Ethernet cables, so that's what you use to connect your NIC, your network interface card. So your NIC is that port. It can be cable, it can be wireless, it can be wired. So, and that's going to have what we call the MAC address, the physical address. So Ethernet is not only the communication protocol you use, but it's far but it's by far the most common. So you have Ethernet, then of course you have Cat5 extended, and this Cat is actually category, right? So the Cat there is called category, just different categories of cable. So you can say Cat cables, Ethernet. So if you go to, so if you see this diagram, you see that you have different Ethernet categories. So you have cable type, unshielded twisted pair. Unshielded twisted pair, then from Cat 6, you can now start having shielded twisted pair. Then Cat 6A, Cat 6, Cat 7. I think there's also Cat 8.
Yeah.
Cat 8 cable. Right? Is that Cat 9? It's going to be very rare. Yes, there is Cat 10.
That's STP.
10, yes, Cat 11. Let me see. There is, it's going to be very high speed internet, because the higher the Cat number, the higher the speed that it can take. Look at it, terabytes. Right? Now you're going to ask yourself, the last class we looked at fiber optics. What is going to collect the speed from the fiber optics to a switch or a station? So it's going to be a high-end category cable, because the category tells the maximum data transmission possible. Are you there? And the maximum bandwidth it can allow. Yeah, we have it here also, Cat 3, 5, 5E6, and the nodes, and of course the speed supported, Cat 7, Cat 8. Okay, so two categories of, let me understand what the material means by TP. Will it be twisted, or just a second? Let me see in terms of context. Provides a special category of the TP cable types. So I wouldn't know what they mean by this TP. Let me check that up. Network TP cables category. Okay, twisted pair. The TP there is going to be twisted pair category cable. So you have, like we said, we have shielded twisted pair and unshielded twisted pair. So the different categories. So the TP there is twisted pair, then the U is unshielded, the S there is shielded. And I've already explained to you in the previous class what you mean by shielded twisted pair and unshielded twisted pair. It's just in the makeup, how it is made up to make sure that you don't have electromagnetic induction, and also to make sure that interference is really reduced, and also to protect the cable. So you have the standard version and the plenum version. So this is the most suitable for patch cables between NIC, that is your system, and the network jack or patch panel. We've looked at what the patch panel is. Then the plenum is then for using plenum space used for HVAC air exchange, right? So this is going to be highly resistant. This is heat, ventilation, and air condition exchange. So those spaces, a lot of things happen. It's normally within your roof, right? So in your roof, if you need to pass cables, those areas, those zones, right, where all these cables are passing, you need cables that are very, very rugged, right? So that's where you could use the plenum. Of course, they are going to be more costly. You see the difference? So this is definitely unshielded, and this is shielded. 2 is the metal sheet around it. Either. So that's what differentiates a twisted pair and an unshielded twisted pair. It's just the metal protection. So you have two standards. You have the 568B standard and the 568E standard. So depending on how you want to wire, but normally recent devices like switches, routers, they are more intelligent. No matter the standard you use, or whether you use let's say cross or a straight wiring, they're still going to understand and transmit your data. So it's normally 4 pairs of cable. Right? So you have orange, white. I call it orange, white instead of saying orange, white stripe. So I normally say orange, white, green, white, green, white, green, blue, white, brown, white. Now, so we are saying that depending on the standard you want to use to wire, once you open up your cable is going to come straight. It's not going to be ordered this way. But in trying to crimp your cable, you want to make sure that you are using any of the standard, right? You're using any of the standard. So once you open it up, you have to arrange it this way. Then you put it into this stuff and you crimp. I'll share a video. I'll make crimping cable. I'll share a video for you on how to crimp a cable. Just understand that you have 2 conventions, the 568B and the 568A. We've talked about fiber optics extensively in the previous slide or in the previous session. So same thing for this. The coloring is else duplex fiber. That is this. Then you have the this is 2. There's difference. This has a protective cap. Then you have ST duplex fiber for 3. That is this guy. At the other end, they have ST duplex fiber with protective cap. That is 4. Right? So just showing you different ways that you can have the fiber optics cable. The coaxial is a little bit old. Use them for TV, for satellite, for CCTV cameras. And like there's a project we wanted to do last week. The installer we wanted to opt for coaxial. And I said no, that you're going to use Cat5 or Cat6 cables to run those CCTV cameras. Even for CCTV cameras, you can still use Cat6 cable. There's a way to do that. Even in the office here, it's Cat6 cable that is used to run even the analog cameras. So most of the times, I think you have it like this. So this is what it looks like. Coaxial cable. Just like your DSTV, your regular satellite TV stuff is going to look like this. It's still a little bit shielded. You have this metal coming out. attenuation, this can be used to attenuate, to discontinue or to cut out and end the cable. Then this goes into the transmitter. Then this goes into the TV. Or this goes depending on how your connection is, right? So this is what we call a coaxial cable. So normally TVs, CCTV cameras, satellites, and the rest normally use this type of cable. They have RJ59 for very older TV, satellites, not so common. You also have it for cameras, right? There's a way it looks. It has power and data. Coaxial cable, camera, CCTV. So it will have, yeah, this is it. So it's going to have power, positive, negative, right? Then data. So commonly used in CCTV. So this is going to get into the camera end. This is going to get into the power adapter for the camera to power the camera. So for an analog camera, this is going to work. But for a digital camera, you're going to use a Cat6 cable because the Cat6 cable is going to also take in power and data. So for that to happen, like in the previous session, we said you're going to need a PoE switch. You're going to need a power over internet switch. So a power over internet switch for CCTV is just something like this. So you can just send Cat6 cables to the camera, put it into a switch, and this goes into the NVR. Let's use this option without internet. Because if you add internet, that means that you want to do remote monitoring. If you don't add internet, it then means you just have the PoE switch. A PoE switch looks like this, very simplistic. It's like a regular switch, but it goes above to provide power to those devices. A camera, for instance, cannot function without you powering it. It's not like a phone that you want to power, you can just put in cable and it can send in power. But for a camera, it's typically going to need like 2, 3, 4, 5 watts. So you need to be able to send that using a PoE switch. So if you get a Cat6 cable and put in here and put into the camera, it's going to send power to the camera and also collect data out. And that data, through the PoE switch, we can now take it into the NVR, the network video recorder. With the NVR, we can now start seeing what we are picking up from our cameras. And for this diagram, it is meant that we also want to see what is happening here over the internet, either via an app or from a software. RJ6, not so common. I haven't used this. I've used 59, 11, and 45. 11 is a telephone. 59 is for majorly cameras and old TVs. Then 45 is for Ethernet. BNC connectors are always going to be used for the RG59. So that's what you can use for them. Look at it here. So this is going to be data. This is the power, right? It's good too for a hardware, a desktop technician to understand principles of CCTV, learn how to fix CCTV, how to set them up. They are connected because you see, setting up CCTV is like setting up a network. Very, very related. If you can master your hardware network skill set, it then means that setting up a CCTV system is going to be like a walk in the park. because you are learning those principles even here. So look at what it looks like, right? So one end is going to look like this, and one end is going to look like this. So this is like a booster, at times a splitter. We use this commonly most of the times on dishes to like either boost the signal, especially if it's coming from a very far distance. Video cables. So you have VGA, HDMI, DVI, DisplayPort, BNC, composite, S-video, and components. So older systems do have S-video, it's very old, but newer systems are going to be using either DisplayPort or HDMI, right? Typically 4K and above, you can do that. So that has to do with resolution, refresh rate. So what's the pixels? What is the picture quality you're going to be getting? Right? Some videos cannot go up to 4K, right? Or some PCs cannot go up to 4K. I think let me do that test now.
Okay, welcome to the channel.
So let me tap here. So I can go maximum 720 but I'm sure it's because of this video, how it was shot. If this video was shot in very high definition, then I'm very sure that you could go up to like 4K. And how do you check if a laptop or a system have such capacity? You can check, you can do, you can check display settings.
Please, where are you now?
Okay.
The network pulled me off.
Okay, good. Right click on my desktop, display settings, resolution. Okay, not here. Graphics. Not here. Advanced display, good. My display is currently 120, 108. But let me check my properties. I can see my available memory is what? 10 gig. So it then means my graphics can take up to, or I can view up to 8K resolution. Or let me do some further tests. 8K resolution video. This is one.
From site to store and so much more. Start your out of the blue idea today. Bluehost.com.
So, you're hiring. Finding the right person for the job can be difficult and costly.
That's the second.
But what if I told you there's a faster, easier, and bias-free way?
Okay, let this ad be done.
And instead, focus on.
Okay. This. Are you seeing?
Yeah.
You see,
8K Ultra.
Yes, I can go up to 8K. Because this particular system has up to 10 gig. So for a system that cannot do that, it will only have this option. Right? So if I switch, I'm on HD now. If I switch to 4K, this is going to be far clearer, and that's going to consume a whole lot of bandwidth.
A whole lot of what?
Bandwidth.
Okay.
So your bandwidth needs to be quite strong, because now it's going to be running almost like for a 1 minute video, it can be as much as, let's say, 2-3 gig in terms of bandwidth or in terms of dropout. Because dropout is how much transfer data you have between point A to point B, whereas bandwidth is how much traffic. Are you seeing how clear the video is? Okay, so if I step down to 114, I see how blurred it is. But see what is going to happen when you do this. Are you seeing? Resolutions.
Yeah.
4K. You see now, my limitation now is now my internet speed. So not the PC. So with the PC, I see how clear it is, like you are there. Okay, so that's how to test for resolution and all of that. Are you seeing? Look at this guy now. By the time you are testing this guy on 2, let's test it on 1, on 2K. Let's test it on okay, so that's just about it, about your speed, video resolution. So it has to do with the kind of the display card you have also, right? Display card is very, very important. So if your display card is very good and you have high refresh rate, high resolution, you're able to render better videos, right? So these are just the different types and what is possible. So VGA as the port. So normally we call it a VGA 15 port. This is the male, this is female. That's why you see this M, you see this F. So we call it DB 15 female VGA port because this is accepting. We say this is DB 15 male VGA, video graphic array cable, right? So it's normally 15 pins. If you count 5 times 3 is 15 pin. So you also have HDMI, high definition multimedia interface. It's very common. You also have the mini, right? All of these ones.
Yeah.
Especially for cameras, like my Canon D600 and some other cameras, they will typically use a mini HDMI. Right, so this is DVI. DVI dual link, VGA HDMI. This card is a video card, especially for people that do recording, transmission. The card, they want to have a lot of options. So they can have a very super duper computer desktop and they add this card to it and you can actually make magic. Video card on desktop. Are you seeing? See, this video card is having, it's having DVI, VGA, HDMI. Are you there? So on the desktop, you're going to put this into the system and it's going to shoot out at the other end. Now, this is 4 gig. This is very, very awesome. So for me, for instance, I have 10 gig. I never even realized until I was trying to test some things and I said, wow, 10 gig is very amazing because I could do a lot of video games. I'm not the game type. I could do a lot of video games. I could do a lot of what's it called? High resolution demanding kind of stuff, right? So because the memory associated with the graphics card will tell its capacity what it can do. Right?
Yeah.
Questions so far?
Nothing really now.
Okay, good. So you see the different cards and the transfer rate. Then DVI, I've shown you DVI. Then you have Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt high speed. You have different speeds. Is what it looks like. I said, let me try to differentiate between Thunderbolt versus Firewire. Okay, I think Firewire, the main difference between Firewire and Thunderbolt is that Thunderbolt provides higher data transfer rates than Firewire. Firewire and USB are standard interface to establish communication between electronic devices. Firewire provides a data transfer rate of 400 to 800 MB per second, and of course, Thunderbolt is going to be used slightly more. So the interfaces are kind of slightly different, and the okay, so that's just differences most times in speed. Like, why would you change from DVI to VGA, from VGA to HDMI, from HDMI to HDMI seems to be like the highest for now. Okay, let me confirm.
Yeah.
Anything faster than HDMI? So DisplayPort supports higher refresh rate than HDMI. So DisplayPort. So if you have a question that has to do with resolution, you have a customer that needs to deploy maybe a cinema and needs an adapter to like, he needs, cost is not the issue. The maximum refresh rates he needs for his video rendition, what's going to be your answer? So you're going to choose DisplayPort over what? HDMI, right?
Which of the ports? There's a port that I think a new port, that is the HDMI, or what's it called, that comes with the blue color.
That's VGA.
That's VGA, right? Is HDMI too, right?
No, VGA.
Okay.
That is the DB15 male or DB15 female. It's always 15 pin, right? This is VGA. So you have DVI, VGA, HDMI, DisplayPort.
No, I mean, there's a port from what I was reading on this around, that just like this shape of the HDMI, but it comes in, they make the blue markings around it for it to show that any computer that comes with that blue marking, to show that this one, I think whether it's HDMI or C.
Is
C
it
port or
it should be HDMI. HDMI. Okay, let me just say HDMI with
so it's a higher resolution from what this guy was saying, that you see that one come with the blue. They must have the blue around it to show it's different from other, the speed and everything is higher than the other ports. The blue markings will be on the system. So when you see that marking blue on that system, you know that port. I'll still check. Maybe our next question, so I can find my question.
Okay, HDMI. Okay. Then USB, different speed, 1, 2, 3, up to 4. So the different generations have to do with the speed. Are you there? Different generations have to do with the speed. some grammars and some theory associated with that. So this is what a USB port is, power supply for the hub. These are USB adapters. For a PC1 connector, this is going to go into the system, right? This is going to shoot out, right? So this is like a USB hub. So this has to do with the speed, what can happen, what can you transfer. If you have an older USB cable or a flash with an older USB cable, you're going to see that it's going to be slower in terms of transfer, whereas the newer USB flash drives or pen drives are going to be quite faster. Are you there?
Yeah. Right.
So this is micro B receptacle. So you can have some USB that have their maybe at both ends. This end can be this way, the other end this way, this end can be this way, the other end this way. Slight depending on the device. So USB 3.0 standard left, micro B right, especially the smaller ones and the receptacles. Although the Type-C connectors also support older USB, it's likely that vendor will use it for 3.0, 2.0, and 1.1 port. So this is not so common. So this is what you have mostly common.
Okay.
So you have male to female, especially for receptors. This is going to be like a male. Sorry, this is going to be a female. Then this is a, okay, look at the label itself. So normally anything receiving is going to be a female, anything giving is going to be a male. So this, number 3 is a USB mini AB, type B, type B, type. So you have type A, B, C, right? So you should familiarize yourself with the different types.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so this is like a gigabit. I think I have this in the office, where you have some recent laptops are not going to have Ethernet ports. But you might want to set up a network where you want to have like 2 physical address on your system. You want to connect to something and connect to something else, or you want to connect to something to get up internet, and you want to connect to something to share internet so that you can do management. That's where you need a gigabit speed USB adapter, right? So you are going to plug this one to your system as USB. You can connect this one to a router. Then you now share your internet on this guy. I think maybe when we do networking, we'll talk about all of that. Setting up a Soho network or setting up a system. So these are kind of the situations that you are going to need this kind of cable. Like I have it in the office when we do some networking classes, and I need to use my system. I have like 1 or 2 adapters there. So I can put this. So I have this one. I have my wireless. I have another of these. So I can set up the network, or where I want to do some kind of vulnerability assessment for a network. I can have this system connected to like a switch, still have this system connected to a router, have this system collecting maybe Wi-Fi signals from another system. Set up such kind of network, I can scan the entire network. So when you want to extend the capacity or the capability of a system, or you have a system that the Wi-Fi card is bad, you cannot pick up signals. So you can just get this adapter, plug it in, and you can connect your cable. Then you have serial cables. So you have RS232. So sorry. So most of the times, what you should understand is that most serial cables are a little bit older. One place where you have serial cables and they are still in use is in hard drives. But in hard drives, even now, we are now not getting, people are now migrating now to, what's it called? SSD, right? So if you see hard disks used to be IDE versus SATA versus now have SSD. They even had SC, SI. Then we now had SSD, right?
Yeah.
So hard disks are now moving to SSD. So but you don't use SSD for critical, except you have mirrored backups. So because they can fail you. So we need some years, maybe 3, 4, 5, 10 years more for SSD to be very, very robust enough, like we have HDD now, which will normally be implemented using SATA. So if I want to show you as an image, this is SATA. This is 60 SCSI. So older hard disks had this. This is IDE. I can vividly remember. This older hard disks had this. When you had hard disks that was just 40 gig, hard disks that were just 10 gig, 15 gig for a laptop, it will come this way. Then we had it this way. Then we now had it this way. Now we now have SSD. SSD that is now like RAM. Are you there?
Yeah.
This is how the IDE cables are then. These are most SATA are now. So this is serial ATA, I think advanced technology something. This is integrated device electronics. This is the older setup for hard disks, for laptops, for desktops, and the rest. Then, but now we now have SSD, right? And in this is always the power. This is the data, power data, right? So we have SATA cables, right? So we call them serial cables. So this is for your hard disks to connect your hard disks. The IDE older, that is this guy here, normally 40 pins, right? They are normally 40 pins. Let me confirm that. And it's used by older hard drives, right? Older hard drives, IDE.
Okay.
So the idea is that after your A+, you should be able to set up and clone a system. Then you now have 60. Then you now have some adapters that will do, what's it called, DVI to HDMI, the USB to Ethernet, DVI1 to VGA, and the rest. These are other adapters. So depending on what you have, you can always do some upgrades. You can do some, use adapters to like complement.
Okay.
So you should know that RJ11 is for phones, router RJ11. So are you seeing? So most routers are going to have telephone. Anytime you see telephone, it then means that we're talking about RJ11. This is RJ45, right? RJ11, RJ45. So this is for telephone. This is for what? For Ethernet.
Yeah.
Different types of connections. Okay. Okay, so we'll next talk about RAMs. What are RAMs? how do we install RAMs? What kind of things that we should be after? What should we look out for? What is the purpose of RAM? When is it likely that we need to do some RAM upgrades? Okay, so let's talk about installing RAMs. Now, one way to make a system faster, better, if the system is lagging, is to actually add RAM. So RAM is random access memory. RAM is like the work table. So if you have a desk now you're using working, the bigger the space, the better for you, right? If your space is big enough, then you can do more work, you can have more files. So because RAM is that part of your computer that all of the works, all of your tabs, all of your software, that's like the table. It's like the workspace. Now, so you need to understand that if you need something faster, then you need RAM. Okay, so you have different RAM types. So you have the acronyms you need to understand is RAM, random access memory, SDRAM, synchronous dynamic RAM, then SDR, that's a single data rate, SDRAM, then double data rate, then dual inline memory module. Then you have SODIMM, then you have virtual RAM. SODIMM, understand that they're used for laptops, for your exams, for your quiz, for your test. Know that DIMMs are used for, what's it called? They're used for laptops. That is DIMM. Then SODIMM, they can also use them for, what's it called? For laptops. They have virtual RAM.
Which one is that?
The virtual RAM. So for virtual RAM, most of the times you could use a part of your hard disk. But this happened, I did a lot of this when, especially people that started using computers in the early 90s and, or let's say late 90s and early 2000s, because then RAM didn't have so much power. So you see a RAM is going to be, let's say, 1 gig or 512 MB or 256 MB or 128 MB. The question is that you wanted faster speed. How do you do that? So you can, Windows XP, Windows Vista, I'm very sure, has a situation whereby you can right-click your hard disk and say you want to use a part for RAM. So virtual, I tend to call it RAM boost from hard disk, right? You want to increase your RAM space by your hard disk. So you just go to the properties. This is what it looks like. Can you see that? You just right click on your go to virtual memory. You indicate the drive you have on your system, depending on how many partitions. Then you select a size. At times, once you indicate a drive, it will automatically assign a value that it can work with, right? Then you set it. Once you set it, it makes the system a little bit faster. So the system uses that size, that part of the hard disk, like the workspace. I don't know if this is still possible in Windows 10 virtual RAM. Now, why it's also not so popular during Windows, let's say 8, 10, 11, is because systems now had opportunities for you to drive them up to 16 gig, 20 gig, 32 gig, 64 gig, 1 to 8 gig like that. So it's no longer a challenge. Unlike before, when you had systems, they didn't have so much speed, so you need to now do a virtual RAM. The ECC, this is like error correction code RAM. So this helps it to, what will make your system, while it's working, freezes and corrects itself and begin working again. So that's that's what ECC does. It enables the system to correct single bit errors and notify if larger error occurs. So it keeps the system working no matter what. Form factors, depending on the size of the laptops, then you have memory speed, then you have memory timing. So these are concepts you need to understand in terms of how RAMs are classified, right? So you see something like CL3, CL2, CL. So the higher the number, the more faster the something is going to be. For instance, if you see DDR CL3, right? Are you there? DDR-CL3, DDR-CL2, DDR-CL. So these are just different ways what's it called? RAMs are classified. Memory module of same types with memory chips of same speed can have different cache latency. CL refers to how quick memory column addresses can be accessed. You know, when you say the RAM is like the space. So it will divide itself into like columns, like you want to have like a spreadsheet, and to use each of those spaces, each of those columns to attend to different concerns. You can be playing a video game, you can be typing, you can be accessing the internet, you can be doing something like that, right? So it's just a way to classify RAMs in terms of their speed.
Okay.
Now, most of the times, if you want to know how much RAM you can get for your system, you just need a system type and you say maximum RAM. Take, for instance, you can just say HP Pavilion X330 maximum RAM, right? So there are sites that normally give you most of this information. Like Kingston is a known manufacturer of RAM, right? They will tell you that the maximum for this particular system that you can give to it is what? 8 gig, and it uses what form factor? DDR4. You cannot upgrade this RAM by picking a DDR3 RAM for it. It's not going to work. It's not going to be compatible. It can slot in, but it's not going to boot up. So you want to know my system, how much RAM can you go? System information. I know I currently use a 20 gig RAM, but let me check. Okay, this is my system here. Lenovo 82NA, right? Control E, this PC properties. So this is 20 gig RAM, right? This is the installed RAM. Now, next thing, let's now check up Lenovo 82NA. Lenovo 82NA maximum RAM. Crucial. So this crucial we see here is still the crucial here. So it's a known manufacturer for RAM, Crucial, Kingston, and several others. So it's trying to look at for this Lenovo 14-inch system, what are kind of the upgrades I can have. So the maximum is 20. So I can't go more than this, what I have now. Are you there? Storage, what storage does it come with? It comes with SATA. Good news. And I made sure that I didn't want to use an SSD. I didn't want to use an SSD. And some of them, I've not opened this PC. If I open it, it will show, I can see if there's options for me to switch from SATA to SSD. Okay. Upgrade advice. Memory, SSD, and all of that. You can have all of that. So for every system, before you try to even do an upgrade and the rest, you can just Google up and check up what is possible. Like someone wanted to purchase a system the other day. I said, okay, you know, you need a very large RAM. check up even how much you can go max. Like my previous system, the max I could do was 16 gig. Right? You see some systems is 32 gig. Some systems can go up to 128. 128 gig RAM HP. Right? So this is a sorry, yes, 128 gig RAM. So ProBook or it's just for gig. I think it's confusing it to be okay. Can the laptop have 128 gig RAM? Yes, Lenovo ThinkPad P16. Right? Maximum RAM.
Yeah.
See it? So while one Lenovo can do maximum 20 gig RAM, another Lenovo can do 128 gig RAM. So you can easily know even before making the purchase decision. We've talked about virtual RAM. This is it, right? SODIMM. RAM comparison, right? So the higher the rating, the more the speed, the faster, right? And you normally see it labeled, right? Yeah. You see it labeled. See that CL wherever, you see it in the RAM. Check any RAM, you're going to see the label.
Yeah.
Single channel, dual channel. So this seems to be a single channel. Yes, just one notch, right? Some are going to have two notch. Then you have quad channels. Some are going to have quad, like 4 points where you could insert your RAM. Parity, non-parity, error checking. These are concepts you need to understand. You need to understand how the RAM tries to make sure that there is reliability. How does the RAM make sure that the work it does is seamless? Because you see, most systems are going to be doing quite a lot of things at the same time. Okay. What else again is important for us to look at? Yeah. I've talked about error correction. Then how do you install? Most of the times for you to install or for you to upgrade, you first be sure that you can upgrade. After you are sure that you can upgrade, then you check the type of RAM. You make your purchase, you open up, and just a second snapping, and that is done. You could watch a short video on YouTube, how to upgrade RAM in 1 minute. So it's just something that can happen in seconds.
For YouTube, today I have a HP program that I want to upgrade. I have a 4 GB DDR3 additional memory. This one we got 4 GB, and we just upgraded to Windows 10, and we found it's extremely slow. So we're gonna add more RAM, and I'll show you how to do that on this HP ProBook. So flip over your ProBook. Very first, we need to remove the battery. Okay, as you see, there are two switches or tabs. We have to push it towards the outside to unlock, and then we can remove the battery like this. And then it's really easy to take off this entire bottom cover on this model. Push it down like this and lift it up. And there is our memory slots. That's it. Now we have 8 GB of memory in total.
So if you check very well, you see that it has 2 slots. So if this is 4 gig, most likely this system can go maximum 8 gig RAM. You cannot look for an 8 gig RAM, try to put into here so that you can go to 16. It's not going to work. If you do that, the system is not going to boot up, right? So for this system, the maximum is 8 gig, so you can only do 4 gig. If you do 2 gig, you're going to have 4. If you do 4 2, you're going to have 6. If you do 4 4, you're going to have 8.
Then it's really easy to take up this entire amount of cover on this model.
Okay. So if you do 2 gig, which
Come again. Come again.
if you do 2 gig in 4 places,
No. Now the thing, it just has only
you can
2
do 2
slots.
gig in 4 places. Is that what you're saying?
No, 2 gig in 2 places.
You can do 2 gig instead.
Yes, you have 4 gig because it has only 2 slots. Right? So you cannot put more than 2 RAM stick inside of this laptop. Right?
Okay.
So you can do 2 and 2, 2 and 4, and 4 and 4. Most of the times for that DDR3,
Okay.
you might not see 1 gig. It's going to be very rare. Ahead. So if it's DDR, let's say 2 or so, or other systems that their maximum RAM size is 4 gig, those older systems, you can see maybe 1 gig. Then if it is older systems, yeah, their maximum RAM is 2 gig, you are going to see 1 gig. If it's older systems, that their maximum RAM is 1 gig, there are some systems that their maximum is 1 gig, they cannot go more than 1 gig. That's how much their brain can, their space can be. So it's going to be 512, 512, right? Then if it's a system that's maximum is, let's say 512, it's going to be 256, 256, something of that nature, right?
And lift it up. And there is our memory slots. That's it. Now we have 8 GB of memory in total. And that's how to upgrade memory on HP ProBook 640G1.
Okay, so that's how to, so that just it. What you need to do is observe the notch. Observe that small little hole. Right? Are you seeing this notch? You observe it, make sure it aligns with what you have on the system, and you are good to go.
Okay.
Now the next thing is storage devices. Of course, you have optical drives serve as a means of storage. Anytime you hear the word optical, think about light, think about your what's it called, your CDs, right? So optical drives fall into major types. You have your CD drives, you have your DVD, you have your Blu-ray. I think we asked ChatGPT some time ago different types of optical drives. There are categories, speed, storage size, and application. Right?
Yeah.
Right? So if you check very well, you're going to see CD-ROM drive, it's read-only. That means that we can only put data on it. Right? Or rather, we can only read from it. We cannot put data on it. CDR, that means we can write to it.
Right.
CD rewritable, that means we can write up to maybe once or twice, depending. Then ROM drive, that means a drive that can help us do read-only. Then, of course, a DR rewritable is a drive that we can write once and do like rewrite to the CD. Then DVD plus writable, that means you can write once and do the writable. So we have different categories. So it depends on this maximum space that it can allow and the difference. So look at the expansion of each of them. Then Blu-ray, basically for storage of film, storage of data, storage of especially high definition, and the read rate, write rate is actually very fast. But these days, we now have hard disks, we now have hard drives. So it's not a regular thing again, right? Because instead of just storing 25 gig, you can do terabytes, right? But for exams, you need to understand the different classes. They need to understand what is possible with each of them. If you have a question that has to do with maybe cost or speed, how do you answer your questions?
Okay.
Applications, reading audio, software, data and data CDs, creating CDs, writing and reading. I remember then I would normally buy a pack of 50 or by 25 or by 100. I think I still have some old ones at home now. So I can write, let's say, content on them, either softwares or all of that. But who uses CDs these days? You don't see CDs again. So people can take in pen drives, then of course hard disks, because you have more flexibility. You also have more storage, and of course faster speed. These are the different types. Now, recording, most of the times, if it was in older versions of Windows, you could maybe bother about installing a writing or recording or mastering software. I remember Nero. Nero used to be a very popular Nero 8 software, right? You could use it to master, you could use it to burn, you could use it to write CDs and whatever. But these days, nobody wants to even burn CDs, so because you could still have things on flash drives, on disks, on over the email or even on Google Drive. Google OneDrive pricing, you just pay a little token and you have a terabyte, you have 2 terabytes, right? Just pay the small amount and you have 2 terabytes. So you can push things to the cloud. People have fast internet, so nobody wants to write stuff to CDs again. But you should be able to understand that, yes, in newer versions of Windows, if you still need to write, let's say on Windows 10 or 11, you just need to drop the file and you see an option to like write to CD, write to CD on Windows 11. So you see something like this. So once you load your Windows, your CD, if it's an empty CD, right? An empty CD, once you put it in, Windows on its own knows that you might want to like burn content to the CD, right? Look at it here. And this person have a read writer, an RW. So you can decide to do it as a flash, or if you want to use it for music or whatever. So whatever you indicate, give it a name. Next, it will now load it up like your flash. Drag any files and drop it in. By the time you eject it, it will start writing everything to the CD. Right? Typically don't need a software. But if you use the software like Nero and others, it gives you a lot of flexibility in like saving content on CD drives. So you could use built-in recording feature on Windows, like I showed you, right? You could just put it in and like do your record, or you could use third-party mastering program for musicians and the rest that they normally use, or you could use third-party drag and drop programs. Okay. So just a second. I think VLC can also do recording. Let me check up. I normally use VLC to just watch videos and whatever. CD recorder. I think you can also do some mastering.
I can't see your screen now.
Come again. Can you see my screen now?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you see my screen?
No.
Can you see my screen now?
No, I can't. Yes, yes.
Okay, good. So I was talking about different ways you could write.
I can see you now.
Okay, good. Different ways you could write, what's it called? Files to CDs. You said you can use the built-in feature. I gave an example of, okay, I think I've closed that. Did you see this example? Did you get this example? Okay, so it seems you're not getting me. Maybe we'll call it quit for today. In our subsequent class, we're going to be looking at, we've talked about hard drive, HDD, solid state SSD. What else again?
Which I can't see you.
Can you see my screen now? Or just continue from 260. Okay, that will be all for this session. We ride on from 260 in the next video.